When a musical instrument or any other type of sound source, electronic or acoustic, produces sound, its amplitude and spectral content change over time in ways that vary from each sound source. You probably have already heard terms like attack and release related to audio, as these terms are part of the envelope generator that controls each sound parameter over time. These parameters are commonly known as ADSR, or attack, decay, sustain, and release, and they can be applied to control the overall amplitude of continuous loopable waveforms, single hits, or even rhythmic patterns. To understand how this works in Absinthe, I'm going to try and show you different case scenarios. To start, let's load a new sound from the browser. I'm going with an analog synth instrument, maybe from the electric genre. Let's just try a couple of them out. I'll just select this motion saw preset. Moving on to the patch window, you can see that two oscillators are active at this stage, each generating a wave at a slightly different pitch that is modulated, shaped, and filtered before reaching the master output. Let's now head on to the envelope window. Absinthe 5 provides envelopes with up to 68 breakpoints for modulating its parameters. A breakpoint is also known as a control point. These points help you specify the amplitude or volume being generated at the exact time where the breakpoint is inserted. To insert a breakpoint, you just have to press Command on a Mac or Control on the Windows platform while clicking with your left mouse button, or simply using your right mouse button over the envelopes line. To delete it, you just need to repeat the same process, but by clicking over the breakpoint you want to delete. As you can see, these changes that I just made didn't have any impact on the sound being produced. There is a simple reason for this. This envelope in which I am acting over is referred to the oscillator C, which is actually deactivated on the patch window. Down on the bottom left corner of each envelope, you can see which oscillator, filter, or modulator this envelope is referring to. To select an envelope to work on, you must simply choose from the available envelopes menu. As you can see, there are 5 envelopes available for this preset, referring to oscillator A, B, and C, and also the modulator located on the B channel, as well as the filter located on the B1 section of the patch window. You can choose whether to display and edit one envelope at a time or more than one envelope each time. To do this, simply press Command on Mac or Control on Windows to select more envelopes. This envelope list has 2 controls: the New Envelope button and the Show Menu button. The New button opens up a menu where you can select a parameter to create a new envelope. In the first left column, you can see a module, and in the middle menu, you can choose the parameter to apply over that same module. As you can see, certain parameters are only applicable to certain modules. The third and final list displays the available envelope templates. You can only access this list by pressing the Use Template button on the top. Once you have highlighted any of these presets, a preview of the corresponding graphic envelope is displayed at the bottom, in this case referring to oscillator A, main pitch, because it's the module selected on the module list. These options allow you to create envelopes and apply them to already existing presets, or to waveforms that you may have already created from scratch, whether to produce short samples, looping signals, or rhythmic sequences. The Show menu offers a fast way of selecting different groups to display on the main editor viewer. You can select to display only certain channels, oscillators, filters, or just to clear everything out. The main viewer is where it all happens. The zooming option, which is represented by this sign, allows you to zoom in and out of the vertical and horizontal representation of the envelopes by clicking on the sidebar and moving the mouse up and down. To scroll through the x-axis, which represents time, you need to simply press the horizontal rule and move your mouse in that horizontal movement. Notice that envelopes, as I said earlier, are composed by 4 essential parameters: attack, decay, sustain, and release. Attack is the time taken from the exact moment when you press a key, hit a snare, or play a string. It is basically the time that takes for any sound to start. You can choose between a sharp attack, or a more subtle attack. The decay time is the time taken for the rundown to go from the attack peak level to the designated sustain level. This sustain level is the last before release. It basically loops the sound at a certain amplitude for as long as the key is being pressed. As for the release time, it is the time taken from the level of sustain until the key is released and the sound decays to silence. These 4 parameters control the characteristics of your sound over time. Notice that when you select any of these, the ADSR assign menu on the master envelope lights up with a parameter chosen, whether you have selected attack, decay or sustain, or release. This assign menu allows you to enter specific values of time duration and amplitude you want for each parameter of the master envelope as a result of all envelopes put together. It is often desirable to hear obvious audible changes in an envelope without having to go through that much work. And with the master envelope, you can get quick results just by turning a couple of knobs. This is great when you are working live and need to do just a couple adjustments, whether you are using your laptop or especially a MIDI controller. You can assign new breakpoints for these parameters just by pressing the ADSR Assign button. Let's, for example, create a breakpoint and assign it to be controlled by the decay parameter. These actually work very well if you are recording or playing live and want to alter those effects as you go with a MIDI controller. I will explain to you how to assign knobs and buttons from your MIDI controller in our next video, but for now, let's pay a little more attention to our envelope window. Whenever you select an envelope to work on, the specific selected envelope windows shows up. There you can choose which envelope mode to apply on your envelope, whether release, sustain, loop the whole decay period, retrigger, setting the retriggering option to the exact time when you want the sound to loop from, control-driven, which can only be applied over modulators or filters, and link mode, where you can link an envelope to have an immediate effect over the edited envelope. Here you can also scale options related to time, amplitude of the subordinate envelope, amplitude offset, and stop. These last two options boost or enlighten the escalation of the subordinate envelope. Next to your ruler, you also have a grid, lock, and slide option. The grid option displays lines according to the time measure. The lock option locks each breakpoint at a different line, not allowing for the breakpoint to be anywhere outside it. With the help of this grid, I am going to try to compose a rhythm inside this envelope. By switching it to loop mode, you can see I have created a continuous pulsing sound within a single envelope. Although I wanted to show you how to do this, it can easily be done by selecting the Expand to Rhythm option on the Transform drop-down menu. Here you can select up to 16 beats divided by breakpoints, the BPM tempo of your rhythm, and each beat duration. In this menu, you can choose from several transform options from scale, generating pulse, duration of each envelope, saving, clearing, loading, and deleting. Next, we have the LFO menu. It is possible to integrate a low-frequency oscillator on top of every envelope using this option. Although we have not yet explored LFO that deeply, keep in mind that you can apply a low-frequency oscillator with any waveform you may desire on top of each envelope, setting his primary phase, and choosing his actions between adopting the shape of the chosen wave or operating as a random sample and hold function when this grid button appears. You can also edit each breakpoint of the LFO generated, setting its depth from 0 to 100, adjusting the speed of the LFO in seconds, or setting the sample and hold speed when this option is on. As for the control menu, it acts simultaneously with the Perform window, letting you specify a MIDI control button or knob to act over each individual breakpoint. Controlling your envelope live with a MIDI controller will allow you to produce amazing results when recording or acting live. In our next tutorial video, we will be exploring the capability of Absinthe 5, assigning each control on the Perform window.